Hey guys, Jay here, and today I would like to tell you about putting your models onto bases, but unfortunately I don't have a bunch of bases finished and ready to go. Oh wait, yes I do, because this is Eons of Battle. Now this topic is deceptively simple because of how varied miniatures and their bases can be. If you have watched our channel for any length of time, you will know we love bases. We have shown you how to make dozens of unique scenic bases out of different materials. The easiest way to quickly make and paint your bases is to attach the miniatures after. If this is how you plan to make your armies, the best way to attach the model to the base is with either pinning or gluing.
Pinning.
Pinning is a surefire way of getting your models onto the base. Pinning is very strong and permanent. It's a strong connection because you drill into one or both of the legs of the model, insert wire into them, then drill a matching hole onto the base, insert the wire, and then superglue it to hold. To get a strong connection with no wobble, I would suggest pouring baking soda onto the superglue to add a little bit more surface to the bond. Pinning is a great choice for models with little surface area touching the base. Leaping or flying models are also a good candidate for this method, like this Deathwatch Vanguard veteran. Only the tip of their toes touches the base, and so I pinned him down to make sure he would stay. The downside of pinning is it requires tools like drills, pin vices, wire, paper clips, and small drill bits. It's also hard to do, particularly to metal and resin models where the material is either very hard or very brittle. And it takes a long time. Trust me, I have spent years of my life pinning most of my models. I was thinking logically but not practically. For years, I would pin almost every model, but now I barely pin anything. Learn from my mistake. Trust me, you don't want to pin down 30 orc boys. And you don't need to, because you can also just glue down your minis. Another problem about pinning is it can be difficult. Some materials don't like to be drilled through, like sand, pebbles, or glue. Another problem is it comes at the most fun time for your model, assembling. Sometimes I don't feel like doing an amazing job of pinning because I'm too excited to assemble the model and be done. This can lead to less than perfect looking bonds because pinning takes time and is not much fun to do.
Just glue it.
This one's pretty simple, just glue the models onto the base.
Super glue is great. It's simple and it works. Just put a drop of glue on the feet of your model and stick it down. This works great for models with big feet or multiple limbs touching the base. But just how you do this does depend on the base you want to use. If the base is very rough or uneven, it can make for a bad connection with not a lot of foot in contact with the base. What I have found helps is putting a little bit of green stuff between the foot and the base. Like the delicate symmetry of an Oreo cookie, the green stuff between the model and the base will squish into the base, giving you a much stronger connection. And if your base is flat like these, you can probably just get away with only using superglue. Now, is superglue as strong as pinning? No, but it's usually good enough. And often, when the unthinkable happens and a model drops, I would often prefer any breakage to happen between the model and the base instead of a sword, wing, or weapon. Now, another thing I've had to learn the hard way over the years is using plastic glue when I can. Look at these two models. Can you spot the difference? Probably not. I used to pin every single one of my Deathwatch. Why? They are plastic models on plastic bases. I feel pretty dumb about all the time and paper clips I have wasted. Now, I just scrape off a little bit of paint and plastic glue them down, and it's probably a stronger connection than pinning anyway. Gluing your models to their bases is the way to do it if you have an entire army that needs to be finished.
Models with bases.
Some models already come from the manufacturer with a base.
These models come with bases built in, like these Fallout miniatures, or these Age of Sigmar Glaive Wraith Stalkers. With these models, you have to decide whether to keep the bases they came with, or to give them new ones. With these Fallout miniatures, they have a key and slot, but it would not be too difficult to cut these off and rebase them. With these Glaive Wraiths, they are completely sculpted on, so you might just be stuck with the bases they come with.
Assembling the base and the model.
There are some advantages and disadvantages to building the model and base at the same time.
If you want the model to interact with the base, it's important to plan it out. It can make attaching easier. You can plan to have a nice spot on the base for the model, like a blob of green stuff or a chunk of plastic right where the feet will go. Adding these little mounds can also make it look like your model is not sinking into the material by giving them a little bit of height. If the bases on models are built together, it can make painting more difficult. You have to navigate your brush around the base and the model's limbs and weapons. But this can be a good idea for models with tiny feet. You can make sure that there will be a good connection point. This might be a good idea even if you plan on painting separately, because now you know the model has a solid connection points, and you can probably work a plastic connection in by using some plastic card or sprue. Just like glue, this is another solid option if you need to build a whole army of miniatures.
Which came first, the model or the base?
So now you have a miniature and its base, and you have to decide, are you going to paint the miniature first and then its base, or the base first and then the miniature?
I would paint the base first. It's easy enough to paint the base, then mask it, so that you can paint your model. Once finished, you can unmask and fix any problems. That doesn't mean that you should never paint the model first, but it's often less practical. Silly Putty is more than just a delightful toy for children, it's also a great tool for hobbyists. It's not very tacky, so it should not pull off your basing material, and it can make a nice tight seal that paint cannot get through. It also bounces. Just be careful of pigments and static grass. They could become stuck in the putty and be pulled off. Another good way of masking your models is with tinfoil. It's not as precise as the Silly Putty, but you know it will not harm the bases.
And there you have it, pinning, gluing, or attaching the model before you've created the base. All these techniques will work great for keeping your models attached to their bases. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, don't put your Games Workshop paint into dropper bottles, and thanks for watching.